Ravenna is an ancient city on the northern coast of the Adriatic Sea. 1500 years ago, it was the last capital of the Western Roman Empire, then the capital of a barbarian kingdom in Italy, and later a city of strategic importance for the Byzantine reconquest under Justinian. The magnificence of that period has left Ravenna with a great heritage of religious buildings, decorated with mosaics, and now recognized as Heritage of Humanity by UNESCO. In fact, Ravenna has a collection of mosaics dating from the 5th and 6th centuries, which is the richest in the world in terms of artistic quality and iconological importance. Mosaic art did not originate in Ravenna, but its highest level of expression can be found here. Even today, this ancient knowledge lives on in the schools and workshops of Ravenna. Today, Ravenna is a modern city of art and culture, situated near the sea. What has had a fundamental influence on the history of Ravenna is this proximity to water. During the Augustan age, the military port of Ravenna was of primary importance. It was the home base of the Praetorian fleet, the classis, which had the job of protecting the eastern part of the Roman Empire from the Adriatic coast to the Aegean and eastern Mediterranean. In 402 AD, the Emperor Honorius transferred the Western Imperial Court from Milan to Ravenna for the strategically defensive value of Ravenna's geographical position. Ravenna was also in direct contact with the east by sea and was protected by marshes which isolated it from inland areas. This was a flourishing period for Ravenna in both works by the Church and by the imperial government. Honorius was succeeded by his sister Galla Placidia, and Ravenna became the Christianized Roman center of the West. From Ravenna, however, the emperors of the West governed only Italy. The barbarian peoples occupied Europe throughout the 5th century, and in 493 AD, Ravenna became the capital of the Gothic kingdom in Italy under Theodoric. During his reign of 33 years, the city benefited from more grandiose building projects. After the death of Theodoric, his successors had to deal with the army of Justinian, the emperor of the East, who wanted to reconstruct a single empire. In 540 AD, Ravenna became the capital of Byzantine power in Italy. This period saw the completion of the great basilicas of San Vitale and Sant'Apollinare in Classe. Today, the city has an abundance of buildings dating from these periods of history, and which clearly show the interaction between East and West. 8 buildings in Ravenna from the 5th and 6th centuries have been added to the Heritage of Humanity list of UNESCO. The Mausoleum of Galla Placidia is a small, simple building of plain brick in the shape of a Latin cross, simple and essential in line, dating from the period 425 to 450 AD. On seeing the external simplicity, one would never imagine the riches of the interior. On entering the mausoleum, one is struck by the magnificence of the mosaic decorations and scenes, the fine marble and nocturnal atmosphere. Light filters in through small alabaster windows, illuminating architectonic features which dissolve into the pure chromatic colors. The cupola depicts a nocturnal sky with concentric circles of stars and a cross at the center pointing eastward. The iconographic themes of the mosaics represent the victory of life over death, which can be seen in the doves and the deer quenching their thirst. The Neonian baptistry is also known as the Orthodox baptistry, to distinguish it from the Arian baptistry of Theodoric. Like the other historic buildings of Ravenna, the Neonian baptistry exhibits the same feature of a simple but elegant exterior with well-defined lines. All the splendor is contained inside, where the marble marquetry, stuccos, and, above all, the polychrome of the mosaics create an atmosphere in which color and beauty surround the visitor. Like other buildings, perhaps this one too reflects the idea of a city which does not reveal itself at first glance, but requires a steady process of seeking and discovery. In opposition to the Orthodox baptistry, Theodoric had the Arian baptistry built for his people. Construction was completed in the most dazzling period of Gothic rule at the beginning of the 6th century, and in its original form was more complex than the structure visible today. The plan is octagonal, and the cupola is decorated with a mosaic showing a scene of the baptism of Christ, who was considered by the Arians first as man, then Son of God. The basilica, now known by the name of Sant'Apollinare Nuovo, was built by Theodoric at the beginning of the 6th century for the purposes of Arian worship. It was later consecrated for Catholic worship and dedicated to Saint Martin. The basilica was decorated with polychrome mosaics showing symbols of Arian faith and depicting the personages of Theodoric's court. The conversion to Catholicism was the reason for the modification and partial removal of some images. The walls of the center aisle are covered with mosaics. The highest part depicts episodes from the life and passion of Christ and date from the early 6th century. The lower part features two magnificent processions of martyrs and virgins and dates from the Byzantine period. The mausoleum which Theodoric had built in his capital represents a single, unique architectonic event. The Gothic king was still alive when he expressed the desire for a tomb in the area already used for burial just outside the city, between the city walls and the lagoon. He himself, whilst still alive, had a monument built in square blocks, a marvelous work, and sought a huge block to rest on the top. The mausoleum is built of large blocks of Istrian stone on a central plan with 2 floors. Resting on the top is a single stone block with diameter slightly over 10 meters, 1 meter thick and weighing more than 300 tons, probably one of the largest monoliths in the world, used as a cupola. A crown of 12 medallions, carved from the same block of the cupola, bears the names of the 4 evangelists and 8 apostles. These forms remind us of the royal crown or even a warrior's helmet. A large crack runs through the block from the top and reaches the edge. This probably happened during the placement operations, in which the block was undoubtedly raised along a slope. According to legend, the cupola was cracked by a divine bolt of lightning, which fell on Theodoric, seated inside, and killed him as punishment for his crimes. The prophecy concerning him would thus have come true, that he was to die by a lightning bolt. It was to escape this prophecy, says the legend, that Theodoric had this huge solid building constructed. The chamber inside is illuminated by a few windows, one facing east in the shape of a cross, which also orientates the mausoleum towards the east, like other buildings in Ravenna from the early Christian era. The Archbishop's Chapel was built during the reign of Theodoric towards the end of the 5th century and is contemporary with the Arian baptistry. It is the only Orthodox building from Theodoric's reign during which Arian worship predominated. It was the bishop's private prayer chapel, and the mosaic series inside concerned the struggle against Arian heresy with a representation of a soldierly Christ treading underfoot a lion and a serpent. In the vestibule before the chapel there is a long inscription in Latin, originally in mosaic, but now partially painted. The first verse reads, Whether born here or captured here, light reigns freely. They are the words which express the evocative polychrome light of the rooms decorated with mosaics. The Basilica of San Vitale is one of the purest creations of early Christian art in Italy and represents a transition from classical to Byzantine architecture. It was built sometime after 525 and consecrated in 547 by Bishop Maximian, who had himself included in the mosaics of the presbytery. The basilica is on an octagonal plane. The exterior is interesting for its varied architectonic spaces, while the interior is of surprising beauty for the originality of the building, the fine marble facing and mosaic decoration. A different concept of space emerges in San Vitale, with emphasis on the vertical in the bold lines of the great arches. The presbytery is the most beautiful part, with its stupendous mosaics, which contain iconological themes concerning the liturgy. Scenes of the offertory can be seen in the lunettes, which depict the sacrifices of Abraham, Abel, and Melchizedek. The large triumphal arch shows two symbolically twinned cities, Bethlehem of Christ's birth and Jerusalem of his death and resurrection. In the theophany of the apse, Christ is seated on a globe between archangels who introduce San Vitale and Bishop Ecclesius. The heavenly theme of the conch in the apse is answered by a worldly theme in two panels depicting Justinian and Theodora. The monarch and the Byzantine empress also bring offerings, thus joining the space for the sacred liturgy to that of imperial sacrality. The Basilica of Sant'Apollinare in Classe is situated 5 kilometers from Ravenna. It was consecrated in 549 AD, outside the walls of the ancient port. The building, with its cylindrical bell tower, stands majestically dominating the plain, although at the time of construction it was close to the sea. The interior is solemn and grandiose, with 3 aisles and beautiful columns topped by Byzantine capitals. No less than 56 windows provide illumination and enhance the impression of light spreading and spaciousness which the harmonious proportions evoke. The walls of the wide apse and triumphal arch in the bright interior are decorated with mosaics. The conch of the apse features mosaics depicting the great saint and patron of Ravenna, standing immersed in the greenery of a scene which recalls the surrounding areas of Ravenna. The message of Ravenna's mosaics is a central point in the history of art. The images formed from small tesserae of glass range from realism to symbolism and convey a religious message of Christian iconology and history. They come to us through a burst of light and color across the centuries, with more than 200 different shades of color. The treasures of Ravenna do not end with such an exceptional artistic heritage. To the gold of the wall mosaics, we can add the blue of the Adriatic and the green of the pinewoods. 9 beach resorts near Ravenna provide full services and wide, well-equipped beaches which can meet the substantial tourist needs. The beaches offer sunbathing, sport, fitness, lunch or dinner near the shoreline, dancing by moonlight. Ravenna boasts one of the largest green areas in northern Italy, the exquisite natural park of Punte Alberete, the quiet marshes of the Po Delta inhabited by rare species of flora and fauna. The pinewood of San Vitale, the tideways and the pinewood of Classe are all areas of great natural beauty and environmental importance. The real charm of Ravenna's history, however, is to be found in other corners of the city, which coexist with the modern city. The Church of St. John the Evangelist with its medieval mosaics. The Church of St. Francis with its ancient crypt submerged under water. The nearby tomb of Dante, who spent his last years here in Ravenna. The 14th century frescoes of St. Clare's and the great National Museum with its collections. The Franciscan cloisters, which house the Dante Museum. The elegant Loggetta Lombardesca, which is home to the city's art museum. The public gardens. The Rocca Brancaleone Park, and Theodoric's Park. Yet more can be found in the wonderful shows of Ravenna Festival, which present the city with its squares and buildings in magical atmospheres. Today, Ravenna is a modern city of art and culture, standing near the waters of the sea, lagoons, and freshwater marshes, which have inspired pages by great authors, and where historic events and shows still continue.